This is try 2 at this video. You'll see it's a little bit later in the morning, it's 8:08. And we are going to go over solving one-step equations with addition and subtraction. I know in the lesson here it says addition and subtraction. Call these, they're one step. We are doing addition or subtraction. And the reason that I'm focusing on them being called one step is as you get into 7th grade, you'll start doing two-step. And in 8th grade, you'll do multi-step equations. And I want you, if you ever wanted to be able to go back to this video and review, to be able to search one-step equations. Okay? So the thing that we need to remember when we're doing this is that addition and subtraction are what we call inverse operations. Inverse operations. So we can think of them as opposite operations when we go to solve them. Okay? And we are not going to use the models that they're using. We're not going to use algebra tiles. And the reason we're not going to use algebra tiles is you have not really learned yet how to deal with negative numbers. So it affects it. So a puppy weighed 6 ounces at birth. Okay? 2 weeks later, so time passes, and now the puppy is 14 pounds. So we want to figure out how much added to the birth weight. We can think of that as how much added to the original weight. And if we add weight, we can also think of that as an increase. And those words, added or increased, tells us that we're going to add. You can think of this like you did in elementary school. It would be the same as 6 plus some number equals 14. Okay, that's how you did in elementary school. And we can also, when we go to solve this, erase all those, think of this as fact families. You did this in elementary school. Meaning 6 plus some number equals 14. So as we did in the last lesson, the way we could check that is we could say the fact family of 14 minus 6 would give us the answer, okay? So what number would go here? We could think of this as taking 14 and we could subtract 6 and we would get 8. And that makes sense if 6 plus 8 does equal 14. That's a true statement. Okay. So they also talk about doing this on a number line, etc. But I really would like you to focus on that idea of inverse operations. Ooh, let's clear those annotations. Okay, and let's start over here. Okay, so some number is what we're saying, plus 15 equals 26. A fact family for that would also be 26 minus 15 equals some number, correct? And that's actually what we're doing. We're going to subtract 15 from here. By the way, those cancel out. And we're going to subtract 15 from here. And when we do that, we get 11. So some number, which is x, in our box, equals 11. The reason we want to understand this is sometimes it gets more complicated. Let's look at the problem below. And I know they say use a number line, but we're not going to. We're going to say 5 equals w plus 1.5. I could switch that order and I could put w plus 1.5 equals 5. You do not need to rewrite it, but I want you to see this. So thinking of those fact families here, I could subtract 1.5, correct? And technically, make like a mirror line here. You'll start seeing us do that in algebra. I'm actually doing it from both sides because those cancel out. And I'm left with W on this side, 5 minus 1.5. So since I need a decimal, I'm going to add a 0. I cannot subtract 5 from 0. This is going to become 10. I'm going to, however you want to say it, regroup. This 5 becomes a 4. 10 minus 5 is 5. 4 minus 1 is 3. And I bring down my decimal, and I get 3.5. So again, we are thinking of that concept of inverse operations or fact families, okay? And they actually do that in this problem now. They give it to that. So I'm going to leave this up here. So the fact family here would be the same as 18 plus 21. That would be my fact family. When we do algebra, we actually show it on both sides. You can think of this as like a mirror line, okay? And 18 plus 21 is 39, and you can check that. You can say, okay, 39 minus 21 is 18. It checks, okay? So how do you know whether to add on both sides or subtract? You are using the inverse operation. Okay, so more words if you want them. You don't have to like, you get rid of. Actually, I'm going to say you undo, which means get rid of. Addition. Should be, write this down in your notes if you want to, with subtraction. I'm just putting subtraction aside there. And then you would also undo subtraction with addition. Okay, again, I know I've said this a few times. It is the inverse operation. Okay. They also did this with algebra here, with some geometry. They expect you to know, if you don't, that a straight line here is 180 degrees. Okay, so that's where they get that 180 degrees. So, sorry, it's geometry. I love geometry. Basically, what we're saying is there's two angles here. There's this space, which is angle X, and there's this space, which is 60 degrees. And that's how they get this X. I just love playing with the colors. Plus 60 equals 80. So fact families, or to undo addition, you use subtraction on both sides. Those cancel out. X equals 180 minus 60 is 120. And this is where we say you want to know how to do this because sometimes they get a little bit more complicated. This is a real world problem, and they just gave you the equation. It has something to do with buying roses. Okay, Joshua, it's right here. Okay, Joshua wants to buy his mother flowers and a card for Mother's Day. He has $25 total. Okay, so he wants to buy roses plus a card, and he has $25, okay? That's how they got that equation. The roses are $21.79. How much can he spend on a card? So to get rid of it, you're gonna subtract, and when you do this subtraction with regrouping, you're gonna get $3.21, okay? So now, I am going to have you guys do problem 2, problem 3, problem 4, 5, and 6 using inverse operations. That's what I want you to use. And this, I'm going to do this, do this. Your teacher can pause the video, and then I'm going to go do these problems. They can pause the video and then go over it with the class and stop the video here because this is where the video is going to end, or you can continue to play it. So let's look at these problems. The first one is 2 equals x minus 3. And if this confuses you, you can rewrite it as x minus 3 equals 2. Because some students, especially when they're learning this, want the equal sign at the end. So this is subtraction. We're going to undo subtraction with addition. So add that to both sides. Those cancel out. 2 plus 3 is 5. Okay? And that makes sense. 5 minus 3 is 2. Okay, now I'm going to go on to the next one. So this one is written the way that we tend to like it. I'm going to use the letter S plus, that's a letter S, not a 5, equals 14. I'm going to subtract, because that's the inverse operation, 12.5 on both sides. And I have to add a 0 here. Oh, sorry about that. That 0 is going to become a 10, and that 4 will become a 3. 10 minus 5 is 5. Bring down my decimal. 3 minus 2 is 1. 1 minus 1 is 0. So the answer here is S is 1.5. Next one. H plus 6.9 is equal to 11.4. The opposite of adding is subtracting, the inverse operation. So we're going to subtract 6.9 on both sides. This 4 becomes a 14. 0. 14 minus 9 is 5. Bring down my decimal. Okay, this is 10 minus 6 is 4. So my answer here is 4. Okay, number 5. $82 plus P equals 122. So I'm getting rid of this 82. And since there's no sign here, it's like a little invisible positive. So I'm going to take 82 away. 2 minus 2 is 0. 12 minus 8 is 4. I'm left for 40. And the last one, which everybody will complain about, because it's a fraction. It's really not that bad. N plus 1/2 equals 7/4. So I'm going to do the same thing I've been doing. I'm going to take away the half from both sides. Those cancel out. The problem is I'm going to come over here. I have 7/4 minus 1/2. And I'm writing it this way because I need to make a common denominator, right? So this, I'm going to use 4. So that 2 is going to become a 4. And I did that by multiplying by 2. So I'm going to multiply by 2 on the top. 7 times 2 is 14. Okay? I don't think I did that right. I didn't. Did you catch that? Did it backwards. Don't do that, Mrs. Falk. 7/4 and 1/2. Okay? So this, to get to here, that's a 7/4. This half, well, what I did there has to be a common denominator, right? So I need to do it this way. 2 times 2 is 4. Do the same thing to the top. And I'm going to leave that error in the video. You guys are probably watching it being like, what is she doing? To point out that even though I've been teaching math for many years, My mind is also on other things, and sometimes we mess up problems. But we caught it. When you get some answer that you're like, that doesn't seem right, let me go back and check. So 7 minus 2 is 5/4. Now, you do not need to turn this into a mixed number. And the key, how I would know that the improper fraction is okay, is if I look at the original problem, that's an improper fraction, right? And if there's an improper fraction in the problem, there can be an improper fraction in the answer. It's okay. And that's a smiley face. So hopefully that has helped you in how to solve this lesson and helped you see that even the teacher makes mistakes. The big key is catching those mistakes and then moving on.